I don't know how. I don't know how it started. I don't know what you did. Now I'm the gal that's chasing you up. Really flip my lid. Come on, you eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Well, what are you gonna do with this eager beaver, baby of mine? Ooh, I'm all there beside you, no matter where you stop. I'll follow you to movies, even to the barber shop. Now, eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, baby. Eager beaver, well, what are you gonna do with this eager beaver, baby of mine? I don't know how. I assume we're live now. Are we live? Okay, good.
We are the Bawd sisters. I'm Charlene.
And I'm Tourette's.
Because of her Tourette's.
Diggly Chibbles. I don't know why they call me that. Every time.
It makes
Every
me
time.
laugh every time.
Yeah.
Tonight, we're not going to fake it anymore.
We're not going to fake it, all right?
All right.
We're not gonna fake it. No, we ain't gonna fake it. We're not gonna fake it anymore. I wrote more lyrics. We've got the right to Kegel, Poon Monsoon and Spread Eagle. Lick it before you stick your dong. Da 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 da. 2 in, yeah, the pink. Yeah, 1 in, yeah, the stink. Oh yeah, we're gonna ride your face and squirt all over the place. 'Cause we're not gonna fake it anymore. Don't worry, there's only one line left. We're gonna give you whiplash from wearing my pussy mustache. We're gonna give you a facial, yeah. That's it. Those are our feminist lyrics of the day today.
Awesome. I can't wait to see that video.
Yeah.
So when do you anticipate having that video up?
Oh, like an hour ago. I tried to make this video, you guys, like that, has it's hard to explain. It's Twisted Sister, but I superimposed pussy faces on their heads, and it was supposed to be Twisted Fister. We're not gonna fake it. And I'm just a technotard, and I couldn't figure out what was going on in my GarageBand. I couldn't get my voice to record. Yeah.
Ooh,
I was just going in for like the band backup vocals. Could not get my microphone on.
Man.
I kept saying, like, is this thing on? I'd cup the balls, stroke it a little. It never got turned on. Why?
Well, maybe your GarageBand didn't want to fake it either.
It's true. Maybe it needs something that I'm not aware of, like
I think so.
Maybe it just needs to be spooned for a while, just attuned with something like that.
Anything. Maybe some eye gazing.
Yeah, some computer gazing.
Some computer gazing.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
through the camera.
Totally works.
Or something.
Yeah.
Or just stare into the camera. Do you feel seen, computer? Computer, come. Yeah.
So we are, obviously, name of the podcast is Was That an Orgy? So I recommend maybe not having young kids in the room. You may not want...
Yeah, if that's not obvious already.
Yeah. Like,
By the
hey,
song.
kids, let's listen to this podcast called Was That an Orgy?
Yeah. And the episode's called We're Not Gonna Fake It.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about sexual, sexy, naughty things and basically saying lots of curse words.
Yep.
Like dick, lick, shit balls.
All of those and more.
So,
yes. Yeah.
we
So
have an open forum tonight. And
I know.
We've received a couple questions from people, and I think we're going to start there
Okay.
with some of these questions.
and we encourage more, by the way.
Yeah.
The more
Send us-
questions, the better. We like an interactive forum.
Yeah.
Just like an orgy.
Yeah, exactly. So send us your comments, dick pics to wasthatanorgy@gmail.com. They'll come straight to me.
Right. If they
They'll-
come to me, not on me, but to me, they'll get turned into art. So I should put that out there too. Like, I thought about just doing etchings, of people's
custom dick pic
custom
etchings
dick
by
pic. Come and look
Bawd.
at my etchings. Yes.
Ew.
When people say that, they won't know what they're really in for.
I love how you captured the detail of every pube.
Every pube.
Especially that really long one that comes from the left nut.
Yeah. I like to use the little kid wax plates that have the rainbow backing too. So everything's super sex positive with the rainbows. Rainbows.
Yay.
Yeah. The more you glow, ding. Yeah, so chime in with your questions. You can chime in with your questions on our Facebook comment feed. And I always forget all the rest of the technological stuff because
we're
not smart that way.
We're on YouTube, Twitch, what else? Periscope.
Dude, we forgot to live stream TikTok. We're such dorks.
Darn
Idiots.
It. Okay. Idiots. Okay.
Where are we without your teenagers? Dead in the water.
I know, I'm so lost without my teens. Okay, well, next time we'll TikTok it too, because that actually was pretty cool last time.
I know.
We got a lot of questions from TikTok.
Great questions. Yeah. Getting the messages out there too.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question we have from one of our listeners is, they were curious about our opinion with ethical non-monogamy, and do all rules need to be equal for both partners in a primary relationship? So let's say this is your nesting partner. It could be your husband-wife, or husband-husband, wife-wife, or, in your triad.
Yeah.
So, okay, I like what you're saying.
I feel like everyone makes it up for themselves as they go along.
That's a very relationship anarchy of you to say that.
I've heard this before.
But it is. But I think that's kind of where I'm landing too. And they gave a little bit of an example. So specifically, if one partner is permitted to pursue both genders, let's say that both the partners are bisexual or pansexual. One partner can pursue both genders. The other partner can only pursue one gender, the gender that is less threatening to that first partner. So, and basically they're saying, is that necessarily an imbalance in the primary relationship, or does it depend? And I think your answer is correct.
Yeah, good. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Well,
for me, that feels correct, because
that resonates.
As long as now the tone of this question makes me think maybe that's not so balanced, and maybe it's not actually quote unquote fair, because it sounds like this partner is maybe unhappy or dissatisfied with that imbalance. So really, to me, the only thing that matters is, do both partners get what they need? Do they feel safe? Do they feel safe in the relationship, and also safe physically? And are they getting to have the fun or exploration that they desire? And so let's say, if to make your partner feel safe, you have to dial down your fun. But let's say, and I've actually been in this situation where I feel very safe in a very wide array of experiments or interactions. Yeah. Thank you for the word. I was like, ding. But my partner felt more constricted a lot of the time. And so what would happen is that I would say to my partner, okay, so my ask from you for the night is to have fun and be flirty and go do what you want. And they'd be like, okay. And then their ask to me would be like, please don't kiss this person, but you can kiss that person, and you can, and it for me became too complicated. Like, when you're in sex brain, it's really hard to remember if you have a long list of rules. Yeah. And so, so eventually it had to become that the rules would get simplified, because once I'm in sex brain, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Am I breaking a rule? Am I, am I doing a bad thing? Or am I breaking an agreement? Yeah. Because the way that I like to think of it is, agreements are what you have with your partner. boundaries or rules are what you set for yourself, and you should never let another person impose a rule or a boundary on you. And you can have agreements with yourself, but you shouldn't have rules or boundaries from another person. That starts feeling icky.
Right. Well, what's challenging, too, is that you have to find, I mean, as I guess an accused and identified relationship anarchist, I think you really do have to find what works for you, too, and hope for, or you and however many. Find out, like, I think it's okay to make concessions in a relationship. If you know that, like, doing such and such with so-and-so is a real trigger for someone, and you really care about their feelings, and it's not an absolute need for you to do that. If you can make that concession, then that's great. Every relationship situation needs to make up their own rules that work for them, and we are flexible. I mean, I think it's good then when we're flexible and we're caring about each other's needs and each other's triggers, so that it's not just this, what a lot of people project upon the polyamorous lifestyle or beyond monogamous lifestyle, which is it's just a bunch of narcissistic perverts that don't care about each other's feelings, trying to get their yayas off. And, so being able to be very present and caring, to co-create a relationship that works best for you, I think is really important. And so that's why when I heard that question, I think like, well, no, I think that like, when I imagine myself in that situation, I feel like, if I was with someone who wanted to, like their example was like see both sexes, if that's not something I'm interested in, then, but I feel okay about it with the other person, then that makes sense. But, also if that's something that's very important to my sexuality and self-expression, and, hopefully the person I'm with can find a way to comport to that situation, and we can find a way to communicate together to create a sense of safety, security. And I think the basis of all of that is communication in a relationship, so that they can feel safe and know that, that's not the most important thing. It's just me getting what I want. You're co-creating a relationship with someone. Yeah. Hopefully in a loving, respectful way.
Yeah. And it does take patience, especially when you're first starting out. There are a lot of opportunities for both partners to get triggered, or all partners to get triggered. No matter what configuration your relationship is, people do get triggered, especially in, when you're starting out with this stuff, because you're going to be really clumsy in the beginning. I was so clumsy. It was like, I might as well have worn squeaky clown shoes, because I was stepping on everyone's toes. I was screwing up all the time.
Yeah.
I was constantly just
juggling all the rubber
wrong.
chickens.
Yeah.
Macaque. Juggling the macaques, as it were.
Yeah. I have to say, if I didn't have these boobies, people probably wouldn't have put up with me. But yeah.
It's a great rack for those listening. Just take our word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, but there are kind of interim steps that people can take as they're trying to push those boundaries, because the thing you don't want to have happen is to get stuck where you're like, oh, these are our rules. I'm making a concession for you, and it doesn't really feel like you're making too many concessions for me. So can we make a little interim step that maybe pushes your boundaries a little bit, and maybe gives me a tiny bit of what I want?
The first example, to me, it reminds me too much of like what's known to be toxic in the relationship psychology industry, which is scorekeeping.
Oh,
like
big time.
Well, you did this to me, justifying your own, behavior or your own jealousy, and everything has to be equal. It's
right.
It sounds a little childish in scorekeeping.
Oh my God, I won't do scorekeeping anymore. I did it for too long, and it's just exhausting. I mean, if you feel like, unless you're a lawyer and you like, having to keep a mental score of everything, I'm not, and so I'm just like, no, don't do it. Don't keep score.
No.
So it could become like some of the ideas that came to me were like, oh, could it be a thing where it's like you're either in the same room, where maybe it's like, okay, so if you're with someone of the gender that's most threatening to your partner, would you be in the same room with them? Would it be for a shorter duration of time? that kind of thing where you're still getting something, where you're making progress. Because the worst is when you're excited about something and you feel stuck, and you feel like, I'm so close, I'm on the verge of, like you're a racehorse at the gate's about to open, and it gets stuck, and you're like, God, why?
Racehorse blue balls.
My lady boner's dying. So and I felt that way for a long time. So I feel like I totally get that feeling. So could it be a thing where you put a time limit on it? You have rules about being in the same room, or you make sure that you're having your dates on the same night so that your partner isn't at home going, oh, they're out with someone I'm really threatened by, so that everybody's kind of having a good time at the same time. I know that's not always possible. It's not really realistic, but I think as sort of a baby step to get to the place where you really trust each other, that those could be little things. There was also a book that I wanted to mention called The Jealousy Workbook, and it's very challenging to work through. Like, I even got a little like worked up when I was going through it, and I'm not even really prone to jealousy that much, because I tend to just kind of, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. I think people who are also prone to jealousy can be great in relationships. This is not like the ideal way of being. It's just like, but I read something like the most challenging thing for me was like, imagine your partner going and having a great date where they have a wonderful conversation. I'm like, oh, I love wonderful conversations. And then they go back to a room and they have amazing sex. Oh, I love great sex. and then imagine they fall asleep in each other's arms. And I'm like, oh, I love falling asleep in each other's arms. Post-coitus cuddling. Right. Yeah, like I couldn't. But that if you can go through that and you can imagine it, or you even go through an episode where you experience jealousy, and jealousy is just like anxiety or any other kind of reaction that gets in your body and in your mind. Yeah. You look at it and you identify it and you say, I'm feeling jealousy. Hello, jealousy. How's it going today, jealousy? I see you taking over my body. I feel like I'm going to throw up. This really sucks. Yeah. And you just sit with it and you realize like, oh, I'm not dying because of this. It's actually not threatening anything. Yeah. My reaction to it might be threatening. Like if I freak out on my partner, then that becomes threatening. Right. But like actually experiencing a negative emotion or a negative feeling is not life-threatening. And it's good to realize that it doesn't have to have control over you. Right. I'm not saying it's fun. It sucks ass. You're going to be curled up in a ball crying somewhere. Right. Hopefully it's not at a sex club, because that's awkward.
Although there'd probably be some weirdos that would get into that. Cry.
And there are totally weirdos who would love that.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Well, all of it, too, it ties into so many things I'm into, like even Buddhism, like Ram Dass says, like, invite the discomfort in for tea. Sit with it, instead of, it's worse when we're resistant to it. And I think that the jealousy thing has to do with, human attachment theory. The basis of human survival is all about attachment. So when you feel like, the person that you've invested so much of your time and energy and love into, and that biologically you feel dependent on, your body is basically saying, I need this person to survive. That jealousy oftentimes comes from a perceived threat. That like, well, if they love me best and most and I'm number one, I feel safe. But we're threatened by the idea of our beloved forming attachments with other people, because we're afraid we'll be abandoned, and that equals death in the human mind. If I don't have my main attachment source, because I don't have tribe and community like we should have in the world, then that means abandonment from the one source, my main source of attachment. And like again, in like a lot of tribal societies, they say that being ostracized from the clan of humanity is death. They don't even need to kill people. Like, it's just send them away from the tribe into the forest, and you dead. So that's what jealousy really comes from. So I think that that the practice of compersion is so fucking challenging because you're having to work against the biology of your body that's going, no, mine.
Yeah.
This
Mine,
is my
mine,
lifeline.
mine,
yeah.
mine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And comperting is about getting over yourself and trying to lovingly connect and project, imagining the positive experience of this person you love so much and being happy for them.
Yeah.
That's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And sometimes it's easy. Like you just, and you never know when jealousy is going to pop up. Like it might be one particular way they look at the other person.
Right.
They might not be touching them, but they could look at them or act interested, or they're on their best behavior and they've been a turd to you all day. And like that will strike up jealousy like nobody's business, you know, like, oh, really? Oh, so you were in a bad mood with me earlier and now you're all Mr. Happy Laughy? Ha 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 ha. Yeah,
Mr.
see
Charm
you,
and-
super charming person, you know, like that's going to bring up jealousy. Like
Absolutely.
there are any sorts of many things that can do that, you
Yeah.
know, that just bring up those feelings where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that sucks. But yeah, the practice of sitting with it, the practice of going, it's not killing me. It's not harming me. It's not actually even harming our relationship. What's harming our relationship, like let's say in the example of what I just brought up, like, oh, you were a turd to me all day, but then you go out with someone else and you're super sweet and awesome with them. The core problem isn't that you were sweet and awesome with them. The core problem is that you were a turd to me all day.
Right.
And so it forces you to have this really honest dialogue about like how your partner is acting and reacting with you all the time. And that will highlight certain deficits in your relationship.
Right.
When you see them on their best behavior and you're like, oh, I remember when you used to be like that with me.
Right.
And that is going to highlight like, oh yeah, you know what? We've let some things slide. Like we got to get back onto this. Like this is
Right.
problematic.
And don't you think sometimes that's, you know, can be one of the benefits of opening your relationship up is that you don't, maybe it inspires people not to take each other for granted as much.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in that new relationship energy that you have, like everyone's on their best behavior. They're in seduction mode. They're trying to do all the things to, you know, seduce you. So they're on their best behavior. And that's what you see
Absolutely.
your partner doing is
Yep.
they're in their like new energy, you know, new relationship energy mode.
Yep.
So
100%.
so maybe
I
a little
agree.
jealousy's healthy.
I think it might be.
We
Oh,
took
do
a
we have
left turn down jealousy lane. Yeah, it was just.
Oh,
Yeah,
we have a question. Okay,
question.
give it to us, Michael.
What is the question?
Okay, Chris VST asks, how can I deal with a situation where my metamors are not jealous, but they simply don't get along?
Oh, they don't get along.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I mean, that is complicated. So I guess like in this case, kitchen table polyamory might be out of the question because and I don't think it's necessary that your metamors get along with each other. It makes life a lot easier and better. But I think it's you know, you can have separate relationships with people. Don't ever expect them to come to the same party and be happy about it. I would say like keep those relationships very separate. I would say the other bit would be to make sure that your primary relationship really feels taken care of, that because they don't get along, take extra care with your primary, because you don't want them to feel like you're, kind of taking the side of your other partner. And I'm super careful about that when I'm the third person in a relationship, kind of the like bonus person. I'm really careful to not be perceived as someone who's like driving a wedge or like
a perceived threat.
Yeah, a perceived
That's
threat.
huge.
Yeah, and so I think it's probably really common for that person to be a perceived threat for some time, and that might actually be causing some of that conflict where maybe they're not getting along. But then hopefully eventually there will be this settling down where it's like, okay, your behavior hasn't really changed, or maybe it's even gone in the positive direction, to make your partner feel more secure. but then also the tricky part is to continue to engage the new partner and, the other metamor.
Right. And you know what comes to my mind too is, maybe I'm projecting, but that it's really important in my mind to really develop a lot of conversation around awareness, developing awareness, and really creating a container of loving nonviolent communication around this discussion about how natural and how easily it is to have jealousy come in, and it can even like wear different hats. Like, I don't like it when they said this or did that or whatever, but what could be below it actually is just that primal fear of being abandoned, kind of wearing a different mask. So I think it's really important that we all create the capacity with our intention and our language to be very committed to creating a long, ongoing, fractaling, opening, unfolding conversation about this.
Yeah.
Because even though once upon a time we might have been like, beyond monogamous or polyamorous or something like that, that's been oppressed for a long time. And so we're kind of on the leading edge as canaries in the mine, figuring out how to do it now for ourselves.
Really are.
And so it's really important to be very empathetic and compassionate to the fact that, the old monogamous rule book isn't working anymore. And we're having to figure it out as we go along. There are books that are coming out, but even the books that have come out are even changing. Like Polysecure, the last book that we showcased on the show, the same author, I do believe, wrote Opening Up. And then even through her own introspection and work as a therapist, she ended up kind of evolving her own thoughts and thinking, oh, no, actually, a lot of what I theorized in the last book doesn't work for me anymore, and created a new book. So here we are.
Yeah.
So all the more reason to have so much gentleness, grace, compassion, openness, empathy for how raw we all are, and, making ourselves vulnerable to this process where there, at this point, really isn't much of a driver's manual.
Right. Yeah.
You got to figure it out as you go along.
We're making this shit up as we go.
Yeah.
We're all like scientists doing experiments constantly. Like, ooh, did this work? Oh, God, no, that did not work.
Yeah.
Back away.
And it might not have worked with that person, but it could work with somebody else.
And that's true too.
So communication with everybody.
And I would say to Chris as well that if there are things that your metamors need from you that maybe they're not getting, that might be causing this conflict, maybe ask them, hey, how are you feeling about the level of service I'm providing? Don't say it like that, because that sounds like you're a Jiffy Lube. But I would say something like that. How are you feeling? Just check in with them. And then, and also, check in with yourself about how you're feeling about the way you're being communicated with. Do you feel like the way that maybe they're expressing their frustration around each other are they expressing that to you in ways that are constructive, or is it just sort of like a downer and you're feeling like, this really sucks and I feel like I'm being punished for having fun, and just check in around that. I'm not saying you have to do anything about it, but feel the feels.
And it's really challenging too to feel the feels of people that you love, and then there's so many opportunities for growth here. Like one of them is to not jump in and drown with people, allow people to have their own feelings. And I'm not saying be a sociopath or a narcissist, but it's like those are their feelings, and you're allowed to hold space for their feelings and not feel like you can change it or fix it, or that taking it on yourself is going to do them any good. They might just work through it, hopefully. There's just so many opportunities to grow.
So many.
So many.
I do feel like in this process, a dog hair on my lip. In this process, I think I've been forced to become a better communicator and a more honest communicator, and someone who doesn't try and guess what the right answer is, but just says what my answer is and deals with the consequences. And that's really hard, because I feel like I was kind of conditioned, not by our parents necessarily, but by society in large, to try and guess what the right answer is at every given time.
Right.
And give that answer to other people so that they feel good, so they feel comfortable. Do you need some tea? Would you like a hug?
Right.
You know,
Right.
go down the list of caretaking.
Right.
And it's the opposite of that. It's, well, no, it's not the opposite. It's caretaking for yourself.
Right. Right.
And you allow other people to have their feelings, and they will. Mm-hmm. And you can be there for them. You can be a rock. You can listen. You can even absorb. You can take time to reflect. Mm-hmm. And then maybe a couple days later, you might want to give them some feedback or reflection, but not immediately.
And something to think about, too, that I heard once upon a time in a land far, far away was that if you consider, sometimes we always want to fix each other's problems. And we definitely have more of an influence of being a fixed mindset-based society. Mm-hmm. But think about the idea that it's like a lot of the time it's us self-reflecting and feeling into where our power is waiting for us to, be usurped and utilized. And that if you're trying to fix everything for everybody and answer their questions, you're robbing them of their own growth and liberation. Yeah. So allow them their process.
Definitely.
Feeling into it. And so.
Yeah, and trust that those fluctuations will come back to something that feels better than life is shit.
Yeah.
Like I swear to you, like 3 days ago I was feeling like super in the dumps, and it wasn't like anything really tangible. There wasn't one thing that was really screwing with me. It was probably PMS. I'm gonna admit that hormones do
PMS
affect
happens.
me. It does.
Hence the amazing tits.
Yeah, it's
PMS.
true.
The toilet tank is full. That's what I call the tits. Is the toilet tank, the water tank, and then
flushes as your period starts, all the water moves down to your labia, so they feel like an inflatable life raft between your legs.
Yes, or I call it the metal donut.
Dong,
the metal donut feels like it's pulling out through your skin. We just had drivers throw up and crash off the road. I'm sure just hearing that.
Oh, that's what we're here for, though.
Yeah.
We're here to make you throw up and drive off the road.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You're so welcome for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think just kind of like knowing that your situation will change, the circumstances will change, and especially people tend to do this when they're in a negative frame of mind or things aren't working well for them. It's like, oh my God, things are never going to get better. And you just have to, you don't have to say it's going to get better, but you can just say, I'm open to the possibility that tomorrow might not suck as bad as today.
Yeah.
Just make space for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't resist the suck, too. That's the other thing. On all levels. Take that how you want it. But, suck happens. So just don't resist the suck. And then the resistance is what makes it the worst. And the judgment of, like, this shouldn't be happening and things shouldn't be like this. And really? Do you know that for sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's like when you're resisting those painful emotions, you're really just kicking the can down the road. Like you're not getting rid of it. You're just saying, I'm going to deal with that in a few days or in a week or in a year or in a therapist's office or whatever. It's like it will come back.
And the big question is, why the pain? What are the thoughts that cause the pain? And it's usually just that most basic shit. Monkey scared.
Monkey scared.
Monkey want mad. Monkey. Yeah, exactly. Monkey want hump and kiss. Inside joke. Sorry.
Totally. Yeah. We're both like hardcore bonobos. It's true.
Yeah. Was there other questions? You said there was lots, or maybe some questions.
So there were. Let me see if I have more questions here. I do have a funny story I want to share.
Story
it just came to my mind because it was about faking it.
Maybe you guys could define metamor. I've never heard the term.
Oh,
yeah, metamor.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get the dictionary definition.
That's a good idea.
Because I will butcher.
I think essentially it means the people who you're fucking are fucking.
Oh, wait.
I'm just kidding.
A metamor is someone who is your partner's partner with whom you have no romantic relationship.
I'm only kidding.
So I wonder if the person who wrote in said meant paramours, but it could be that they're
both. Just
yeah. So paramours is the person that you have a romantic relationship with. Metamors are your partner's partners. So your your wife's boyfriend or your husband's girlfriend or whatever, your husband's boyfriend or wife's girlfriend, whatever. Yeah. But whether it's metamor or paramour, I think the commentary remains the same.
It's more. Yeah, that's the bottom line.
More. So I had this weird relationship thing. This was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. That was like, this story cracks me up every time because this highlights to me how sensitive I am about power and control and how much worse some other people are. So I was newly single and went out on a date, a couple dates with this doctor. And he's the kind of person who's like, I do Doctors Without Borders. And I'm like, that's great. Where have you been? You know? And I'm like, oh, he's so smart and handsome. And
he's a doctor.
Yeah. And we ate Italian food in a restaurant. And I had a work event that I had to go to that night, but I was like, okay, let's go have some dinner. And then I'll go to the work event afterwards. And all night long, he's touching my arm and, you know, giving me all these signals. And I'm a 15-year-old boy. We all know this. Everyone who watches or listens knows this about me, that I am not a very typical female. Like, I make fart jokes, I'm nasty and gross, and but also very much who I am. And even if I'm having dinner at an Italian restaurant with a doctor who does Doctors Without Borders, yay, hooray, that's awesome, I'm still going to be a 15-year-old boy. I am not going to be Pretty Woman. I'm not going to fit into this.
I approve.
Like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So he that night had told this story about, you know, my first kiss was with, let's call her Brittany. And she had this amazing Dr. Pepper chapstick that she used. And, you know, I'll always remember that. And so at the end of the night, you know how comedians like to bring things full circle. I think I'm so funny. Such a comedian. So for my own entertainment, I was like, okay, well, my work thing, you know, got underway about 20 minutes ago. I should probably, you know, get going. But I'm going to go ahead and put on some lip balm so that we can have a kiss now. And we had never kissed before, but he had his hand on my thigh, on my arm, on my, you know, touching my hair, yada, yada. And so I do that. Like, I'm just very forward that way. And he like gets this shocked expression on his face, and he's like, well, I like to be the one who initiates the kiss.
Ew, my.
And imagine
Dr. Pecker.
my head cocking sideways. I'm like, I'm not sure how I think about that. And then he starts doing this weird thing where he starts coming into my face like he's going to kiss me, and then he backs away. And then he comes in and he backs away, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know, like, is he trying to psych me out? Does he think I want a kiss that bad where I'm going to put up with this weirdness? And so I like put on the chapstick, and then he's like, oh, I like it to be a surprise. And then I'm like, oh, this is a control thing. This is like all about power and control. Like, you feel the need to surprise me with the first kiss. So what happened to consent and that kind of thing? So like, I put the chapstick on and I was like, okay, how about I turn around and you kiss my ass? How's that for a surprise?
Oh, shoot, girl.
And he was just like, what? Oh, what? And we obviously never had any more dates. I was okay with that at that point because I was like, this person's playing games with me. You know, it's like, or his style and my style don't mesh. Like, if he wants to be top and I'm not willing to be bottom, we should go our separate ways anyway.
He needs to be Dr. Pecker, and you want to be your own
And I'm my own monkey.
You're your own pecker.
I'm my very own monkey, and my very own pecker, yes. Yeah.
Right.
So that was my fun thing. So that was my intro to dating story. So if ever someone tries to control you in any way that you feel like you're not bringing on, you're not like, yes, you have the control in this situation, just turn around and let them kiss your ass.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show, too, that everyone has their different style and communication, sexuality. Someone else would have loved that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes, you be the person in the driver's seat, and I just get to be the subservient, acquiescer, but that's not your jam. So it's good to just be transparent, authentic. You do you, boo, and saying, well, then how about you kiss my ass as part of you doing you? So perfect.
That's true.
We figure it out. We figure it out.
And if you're ever on like a OkCupid or Tinder or something like that, put something in your profile that's uniquely you. Like I'll put in quotes from the Muppets or something like that, because hopefully that's going to weed someone out. And it's really obvious if someone did not read your profile. If you have a bunch of silly, wonky things in there and they're writing to you, hello, how is your day, beautiful? And you're like, waka waka.
I actually imagined you with a gonzo nose looking at your chicken breast going, hello, my little beauties. Like down like that. Yeah. Yeah, right.
But the people who get it are clearly your people.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Weed them out by being your authentic self.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
You can compromise, but make sure that the compromise is something that you don't resent, that you feel comfortable with, that you're going to be okay with a year from now.
Right. Can you back what you're fronting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't set yourself up for playing small.
Yeah. If I was demure on every first date, like the person that I went on that first date with, like a month later would be like, what happened to you?
Right. Yeah.
Who are you?
It's what trying to, deny conflict will do in the long run. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go.
And I think that's part of an abundance mindset, is to go like, hey, I don't need to try and make every relationship work, or every potential relationship work. There are going to be people for whom you are not ideal, and that's okay. Let them go. Yeah. Be just and realize that the right people are out there for you, and that's going to happen, and you will eventually find each other, maybe through your OKC profile or whatever else. But you have to do that due diligence up front of representing yourself properly.
Right.
Of letting your little freak flag fly. That's really hard to say.
Freak flag fly.
Yeah.
Let your freak flag fly.
You're the singer, so you can do that stuff.
The singer. Yeah. Well, I must have woken up on, the big old psychological side of the bread. Well, because I'm thinking about how maybe that comes from being brainwashed to be consumers, but we're very much trained in this society to try to, coming from a fixed mindset of having a fixed personality, but to be extrinsically motivated to where it's we're constantly looking for other people's validation and permission and approval versus being intrinsically motivated, which is, you live for your own sense of, happiness within yourself. You give yourself your own sense of permission in life to be who you are and find connections based on that. And be optimistic and an abundance mindset, as you said, enough to where that there's enough for all of us to be who we are. We don't have to be approved of by everybody, nor do we need to approve of everybody. We find what works for us. Be on your own intrinsically motivated journey.
Totally.
Yes.
And that's the moment that I realized that I wanted my kids to be intrinsically motivated was around self-esteem. And there was this book called Your Competent Child. I'm sure it's still available. It's great for parents of young children because it talks about letting your children drive their own car, give them choices so that they can feel like they're in control of their lives to whatever extent they can be at any age. So, and instead of saying, wow, you did such a great painting, Junior, you would say, so Junior, how did you feel doing that painting?
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? What do you like most about it? What was the hardest about it? And that gets them in touch with their internal dialogue and how it felt to do the thing. Did they enjoy it and stuff like that?
Right.
Instead of becoming a dancing monkey, performing for people, they become someone who does something for themselves for the satisfaction of it.
Right.
And hopefully they still maintain connection with other people, but we have to assume that that's going to come through society and all of the feedback that we receive on a daily basis.
Right. True dat.
True that.
Yeah, you know what's funny is we took such a left turn. We were like, let's talk about not faking it anymore. Now it's like 15 minutes
But
till
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Did you have a question, Michael? Oh, yay, we have
Miguel.
another question. Michael.
Question.
Yeah, we have
Uh-huh.
another question. Chris asks again, what do you think is the best dating site for the E&M crowd?
Oh my
best
gosh.
dating site for the E&M crowd.
I'm probably the worst to ask about that because I've been off of dating sites for a while.
I just found out about one the other day, though.
give it to us.
God, I
I mean-
think it was called like I'm Open or man.
Oh, well, I know that OkCupid has like new kind of settings that for like your relationship status and the relationship status of other people that you'd be looking for. So I think that one's still pretty solid. But Teresa's looking up another one.
I am consulting the great Google. Oh, Google, what do you
great
have for us
Google.
today? Yes.
You're reminding me of Jambe from the Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Oh.
Mecca high, Mecca hiney ho. Which, when I think about it, hiney hole, I mean, how close was that?
your hiney hole.
Mecca lecca
Yeah.
your hiney
Well, I don't know. I
hole.
guess people are going to have to consult the great Google themselves because I could go down this wormhole, but I'd just be wasting time.
But you know what,
boring
Chris?
people.
I will try to talk to the people who told me the name of a thing that I totally forgot about, because the problem with me is that if it's not relevant to my experience, a lot of times I will forget it immediately.
Totally.
And it's not right now because I'm not on any sites. So I was just like, in one ear and out the other, it's gone.
Meow.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Well, as we fractal back, it's so funny because I thought we were going to talk about like not faking it. And, we just fractaled. We fractal.
We can get back there though. We have
Yeah.
time to like,
because actually,
let's go into that.
I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was thinking about like what a lot of people. I know a lot of people that fake orgasms, and I think it's a tragedy. It's an unnecessary tragedy. And I was contemplating how I think there's a lot that happens wherein sometimes it's people learning things from porn that don't actually work in real life, and that men and women's minds work very differently. Mm-hmm. The biology of our sexuality works very differently. And something that I think is very true for women that I've found very challenging to put into words over and over again, relationship after relationship, is that, relaxation is such a huge part of the female sexual response. And that there's so much conditioning for men in this culture to be like, aggressive Tarzan, take woman by hair, club, drag back to cave, hump hump.
That's
And
not entirely bad.
It's not entirely bad. It's not entirely bad. Now, that's true. This is where it gets confusing.
Sometimes, yeah.
It totally gets confusing. And that's where I feel like, again, the basis of like it all is like good communication. Like when people are talking about their stars, I hope in the poly, beyond monogamy community, people are actually talking about their stars earlier, because it seems like a lot of the time the stars talking about your STIs, STDs, your turn-ons, your avoids, your relationships. What's the last S for?
Safer sex practices. And
Safer
this is,
sex
this
practices.
is something
That's a lot of S's at the end.
Yeah.
Stars.
Stars.
Yeah.
And this is something that was brought about by Dr. Evelyn Decker, and she's actually going to be a guest on our show pretty soon. I'm super excited about this. So yeah, anyway, go on with your sentence.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't talk about it early enough. It's like people are still shy talking about their sexuality, and then jump into sleeping together first without having enough information about each other. And one of the things I know about, like, especially the biology of my body and how I've been in every relationship, is that there's something that I even read about that's very effective for helping a woman achieve an orgasm is actually has to do with teasing. Again, there's that conditioning that men have to, be responsible, be domineering, and, commanding. That totally does work sometimes. But when that's not working, a lot of the time it's because, like, the woman's not working towards her orgasm enough herself. There's enough room for her to come forward. If there's too much overstimulating coming at her, and she's not actually being sort of like teased out or drawn out, that can really inhibit the female orgasm. There's so many things that can. That's why I was like, oh, this is a whole show. But we'll wait for it until like Marcia comes on.
Yeah, that's true.
My doctor friend Marcia, she's amazing.
She is amazing.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
We have another question.
Another question.
Another question. This is amazing.
Boy.
This is the most fun show
I
ever.
feel like this one. So it's Chris asks again, do you have an experience with someone faking it with you ladies? And
Yes.
do you think that
Definitely.
men are actually able to fake it?
Yeah, I would say yes on both counts.
Yeah.
Because I actually one of the ladies I had sex with, I'm still friends with her, and she mentioned, not too long ago that she's like, she's married now, and she was like, my husband's actually the only one who's ever given me an orgasm, and I'm like, oh, really? Did you forget about the one you did for me? Great performance,
But thanks, honey.
Yeah, that's one of the sad things is that, if we're feeling like we're not able to stand up for and express what our needs are, in the moment. I mean, we're such an ego-based society too that for a lot of people, that just RIPs their ego boner. Like, has this ever happened to you? This has totally happened to me. Where even if you say like, oh, that's can you go a little lighter? That someone's just sort of like, they focus on, I'm not doing it right, and then RIP their ego boner, and they withdraw.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be so much more conversation based in interest, caring, getting to know what your turn-ons and your avoids are.
Yes.
And
there is this great practice called body mapping, which I think is a great thing to do with any new partner. Even if this is like your very first time together, you can just be like, I'd love to try something with you, and this is really no pressure at all. I am not trying to get you to have an orgasm or anything like that, but I'm just I'm gonna touch you in all these different ways, and I'd like you to give me really honest feedback about what you like and what you don't like. Mm-hmm. And given that, you're gonna get the most honest responses from someone, because there's no performance anxiety. This is not a performative thing at all.
And you're not just genital focused.
Nope. I'm finding out, do you like being touched on the nape of the neck? Do you like this? Do you dislike that? Like, men are all over the place with nipples. They could love it. They could hate it. They could be like, man, you might as well be touching my weenus, which is, the skin on your elbow.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
So
glad you explained that, by the way.
So, it is like, I think body mapping is a great thing to do with a partner, because you might find that they like something that no other partner has ever expressed liking in the past.
Yeah.
And when they body map you get to give them really explicit details about what you like and what you don't like, what works for you. And you don't feel bad about saying softer. No, really, softer, much softer. Try not to touch it and see if that's soft enough. Like,
right.
For real.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful. But I think, like, I remember when Joseph was on the show, he was talking about that, like, where you want the person constantly opening to you. You don't ever want someone to be contracting.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens, like, usually the way that women get men to contract is by trying to go too fast. Like, you're like, I'm going to just so vigorously touch your penis that I'm going to make you come in 5 seconds or whatever.
Right.
Guy's going to start contracting at that point. I mean, or he might like it. Who knows? But for a lot of people, that's going to feel like pressure. That's going to feel like, I want to get this over with so that I can watch Netflix and, whatever else, eat popcorn.
Yeah.
And with men to women or women to women, it's going to be a lot of, I'm going to go harder, faster. And that's actually really going to make women constrict.
I keep thinking about porn. Like, I think porn has fucked a lot of people up.
Oh,
from
God, I
watching,
hate it.
Yeah, and the way that men, must feel, I'm imagining, that, there's just this emphasis put on, your masculinity is in this money shot, instead of in you just being a human, enjoying yourself, relaxing, expressing, and whatever, if your boner comes and goes, whatever, as long as you're enjoying yourself, you're having a good connection,
right.
It's all that really matters. But there's so much pressure on your virility and this rock hard, boner and, making her multi-orgasm. Just chill out, everybody.
Right. Everybody relax.
Relax and enjoy
Aren't we
the
just here
ride
for
a
the
little.
pleasure? Like, think about your favorite movie. Did you have an orgasm watching it? No, you probably didn't.
I don't know what you were watching, but no, just kidding. Yeah.
Princess Bride did not make me have an orgasm. Not once.
Well,
I don't know that
speak
that's
for
my
yourself
favorite
again.
movie, but that's the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's one thing that we were kind of talking about briefly ahead of time before the show as well, was like the idea of like, I don't know if it's called soft sex or whatever, but like the acceptance of the fact that the male body is going to go through these cycles where the erection gets really hard and then it gets soft and hard and soft and hard and soft, especially the longer your session goes on. And the idea that you don't have to be hard the whole time, that you can just accept touch in any state. You don't have to apologize for what's going on below the belt or anything like that.
Because what drives me crazy about that is like women get clitty hard-ons and,
Yeah.
they come and go,
Yeah,
all the time.
totally.
But we don't have this like performance anxiety because it's just not as obvious when they come and go.
Normally, I'm an eighth of an inch larger when I'm erect. I'm so sorry.
I know, yeah.
I'm so embarrassed.
And you don't have to be embarrassed about it and smack it. Come on, get
Oh
up
my
there.
God. Porn. Okay, the whole slapping the pussy thing, that makes me like want to punch someone in the face. Like if I'm like, why the fuck did you just slap my pussy? Did you see that in a porn? Like, you think that's a good idea? I'm like, why would you do that to the most sensitive part of my body?
Okay, you know what comes
The
to my
most.
mind though?
What?
Is I'm sure there's someone out there that really likes it.
Oh, totally.
Maybe
That's why
someone that
body
has
mapping is
like,
good.
a microclitoris that isn't
Right.
so sensitive. They're like,
Right.
yeah, spank it.
Yeah.
Spank that ham wallet.
That's totally true, because I've known women in the past who like a little nibbling on it too, which makes
With
me
teeth?
just want to cry. I know exactly, right?
Oh no.
But someone, if someone
God.
were to do that to me, I would just like through the roof. I'd be like,
To each his
"Why
own, I
did
guess,
you
but-
do this to me?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's so yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
all over the place, which is really why I say body mapping is such a great idea.
And
with your new partner.
we keep coming full circle to communication.
Yeah. And it can be nonverbal communication. Like if your partner bites your clit, slap them in the face. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, don't do that. But nonverbal communication is something, and verbal communication is the most important one.
Yeah,
You don't need to belabor it. You don't need to apologize for it. You can just say, ooh, I need that softer. Wow,
Right.
I need that so much softer than what you're doing
And
right
if
now.
you've never tried, I highly recommend to every person out there, to at least, the if you're with a woman, it might not work for you. It might not work for her, but like if you've never experimented with the teasing it out, like even in BDSM communities, they do orgasm denial, where they'll get a woman close, and then they'll deny the orgasm, and then they'll, return to it, and kind of, it's like building up the pressure in a balloon. It just gets greater and greater, and that actually like teasing that out of a woman. Like I remember one of my first boyfriends who just like, don't worry, he's moved away to another part of the world. But like, he used to do what I called the honk honk ding dong ding dong, where all it was just grab my tits, honk honk honk, ding dong ding dong, clitoris, yeah, and I would be like, oh Jesus Christ, back it up a little, like, and I remember saying, this is in my 20s, like, how would you tease a bunny rabbit out of a hole? Dangle the carrot a little. Don't just shove it in there. Grab it by the fucking ears. Punch it in the face.
Eat your fucking carrot,
yeah,
bunny.
take the carrot, bitch. Yeah. Tease it out a little bit, The teasing thing, If you engage a woman's mind and her own effort in her body, the results can be like really amazing. The more she wants it, the more aroused she is before she's given the direct clitoral stimulation or whatever it is, the better it is.
Yep,
but we don't
truly.
see that in porn. We just see like, people getting like, piss flap slap happy, just blah, 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 like motorboats, like, Popeye with the punching bag. Yeah. And it's like, actually, that's just for porn, so that it's visual like that it's just so
And some
hardcore.
people like and some people like that level of stimulation, and for them that's great. And
Yeah.
you will find that out from them directly.
Exactly.
But I would say err on the side of being soft and then saying, would you like more stimulation? Would you like this harder? Would you like this faster? You know?
Yeah, make them Oliver Twist you. You know,
Yeah.
"Can I have some more, please."
Ooh, me porridge isn't quite liquidy enough.
Nutty
I don't
enough.
know.
Yeah. Right,
Oh my
right.
God.
And just like that, the hour's gone. Can you believe
Yeah,
it?
isn't that crazy?
Oh, my God, it
I have to
happened
read
so
a couple
fast, Becky.
from Tiffany Gray.
Oh, shoot. Okay, we missed questions. Darn.
Oh, I love this. Tiffany Gray says spanking a dick versus spanking the pussy. Oh, that's interesting. I've never slapped a dick. I mean,
I've never slapped.
well, maybe as like a, oh, you fucker, and slapped it, you know, like through pants or something. But I've
Yeah.
never slapped a dick expecting someone to get like turned on by it.
Can't say I ever have
I
either.
would think that someone would get upset by that.
Yeah.
And then maybe orgasms are more about the emotion, intellectual feeling than the physical. We can come, but that's not orgasm. And that's true too. Like people are all over the place as far as like there's the physical part and there's the emotional part and there's
Right.
the intellectual part, and you
Yeah.
can get all of those different types of stimulation.
Right.
And like they can all funnel into one thing, or some people keep them quite separated.
This is going to be, I think that it's kind of great that we ran out of time to get to all this. Because
Yeah.
actually, I put so much thought into this. And this will be a lovely episode to have with my beloved friend, Marcia Wiggins. She's a doctor and she
Yeah.
specializes in, female health, but like if the health and then aesthetic. Words no come when you want.
Aesthetic medicine.
Aesthetic
Yeah.
medicine. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
she also does vaginal rejuvenation in her clinic, and that's fascinating and effective. So
Wow.
we're going to get into that with her, and then hopefully we can get back into this because there are really so many aspects. I was more focused on, the elusive female orgasm, so women don't have to fake it anymore. But I want to talk about men someday too, because that's a whole nother ball sack of wax. But
Yeah.
figuring out, the emotional, the mental aspect of female orgasm is so important. It's almost like we have to get out of our minds, but to get out of our minds, you kind of got to go through our minds with, the buying into this fantasy, creating a fantasy that builds on itself, planting a seed, and it's this game, this little dance of seduction.
Yeah, you
But-
can't go over it. You can't go around it. You got to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way. I think next week we are actually going to have brisket.
Oh,
A
next week's
friend
brisket.
Friend and amazing dancer and mama butt. She's going to come for some cock talk next week.
Ow, boy.
Cock talk, but I think we could easily continue this conversation about orgasm and,
We've only just begun.
yeah, this could keep
To
going
orgasm.
for episodes upon episodes. And I know that Brisket is going to have lots to say about that as well.
Yay.
And then perhaps the week after that, your
My beloved
Lady Juve.
Yes.
Yes, your beloved lady
My
doctor.
beloved belated doctor. friend.
Yeah, I think that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thanks for chiming in. Did we get to all the questions? I hope.
I think we did.
Oh my goodness. And because of the theme of today's show, if you stay tuned and actually watch, you'll see a really ridiculous, or I should say a ridiculous little video that I made called "We're Not Gonna Fake It" by Twisted Fister, and it stars my pussy magnets that I make. Woo! Yeah! So tune into that. Tune in for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cue the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.